All right, so let's play this clip quickly. There's 2 clips. So Fox and Friends got very excited because there was a Democratic candidate at in Arizona running for the endorsement of the political grassroots campaign, something like that. And this is like a big debate.
Grassroots Political Action Committee in Tucson,
PAC,
Arizona.
right? Okay, in Tucson, sponsored the debate, and they're running for Congress. And well, here I'll let Fox and Friends describe the scene for you.
In Arizona's 2nd congressional district, there was a debate, and one of the candidates, she got booed a number of times for basically defending ICE and saying some things that you might find pretty rational. Listen to this.
I just want to be really clear. If you would have declared your support for ICE agents without any increased oversight, would you have supported Democratic leadership in condemning Ms. Waters' comments?
So that's Ann Kirkpatrick, who is known, I don't know if you would frame it as moderate, but a reasonable member of the Democratic Party. She's in a debate, and she's asked, would you support ICE, and should we condemn Maxine Waters saying you should harass people that support Trump? Courageously, she raised her hand. Remember when President Trump raised his hand saying, will you abide by? It takes courage to be the only one to raise your hand. Sometimes it cuts for you in Trump's case. I wonder whether in this case it will hurt her with the grassroots who have clearly moved further left.
It probably will, but you know what? She doesn't lose her soul in all of this. And
Oh, there's Abby Huntsman. Speaking of losing her soul.
You wouldn't want to compromise your soul for criticizing a fascist kidnap organization.
Right,
yeah.
right. There you go. But just Abby Huntsman really describing the process of soul leaving. So the Fox is so excited because they have this Democrat who's, I wouldn't say she's moderate, but she
reasonable.
She's reasonable. Incidentally, what is it? Like only 38% of the country now supports ICE. Is that what it is?
Yes.
And so she's to the right of the country on this.
She's reasonably pro-kidnapping.
So what will Fox do? Well, and it makes sense. We're gonna reach out. We're gonna book this person on our show, and so they reach out and book who they think is this Kirkpatrick, Ann Kirkpatrick, on their show.
And joining us now, that candidate, the only Democrat on stage to support ICE, Ann Kirkpatrick. Thank you for joining us. We appreciate it. Tell us why you do support ICE.
Good morning. I'm actually here to speak directly to Donald Trump. I feel that what's happening at the border is wrong. I'm a mother of 4, and I believe that separating kids from their parents is illegal and inhumane. I'm actually Barbara L'Italian. I'm a state senator representing a large immigrant community and running for Congress in Massachusetts. I keep thinking about what we're putting parents through, imagining how terrifying that must be for those families, imagining how it would feel not knowing if I'd ever see my kids again. We have to stop abducting children and ripping them from their parents' arms, stop putting kids in cages, and stop making 3-year-olds defend themselves in court.
But that practice has stopped at this point, Ms. Kirkpatrick, right?
Pause it for 1 second. Incidentally, no, it's not clear that it stopped. And certainly we know that there are at least 2,000 kids who are not reunited with their parents.
Patrick, right?
Score political points with your base.
Well, and families have been reunited. Kids have been reunited with their families.
Again, my name is Barbara L'Italian, and I refuse to believe that our only options are open borders or traumatized.
Okay. All right.
Let's move along.
That didn't go
for
as
a
planned.
second. So that's what happens sometimes. Time for a break?
Yeah.
Okay.
There you go.
We were expecting
Good for her.
a concern troll from Arizona to say that we should treat each other with civility, and this woman's actually talking about the rights of children. So
Yes,
not as
this
planned.
is rather disgusting, critiquing kidnapping of children.
That's the last time we get excited about a Democrat.
Exactly. I think we've learned our lesson. That woman, Barbara L'Italian, will be joining us later in the program. But first, we're going to take a quick break. When we come back, Alyssa Quart on her book, Squeezed. why our families can't afford. We are back. Sam Seder on the Majority Report on the phone. It is a pleasure to welcome to the program State Senator from Andover, Massachusetts, Barbara Lee Italian. She is running for the congressional seat in Massachusetts. I'm not sure. It's the 3rd district. And in the primary, and apparently there's 9 other candidates. But Barbara, welcome to the program.
Thank you very much. Glad to be here.
So we played the clip earlier of you on Fox and Friends. And just to remind folks, Fox and Friends thought they were bringing on a primary candidate from Arizona, and I think it was the congressional 5th district in Arizona, named Ann Kirkpatrick. And instead, Barbara, you were on there. Tell us what message you delivered. This was on the hit was supposed to be a Democrat who is willing to stand up on behalf of ICE. And you more or less said what?
I basically said that I am a mother of 4, and what we are doing with our border policy, separating children from their parents, is immoral, illegal, and inhumane. And talked about representing a large community, immigrant community in the city of Lawrence, Massachusetts, and that every single day I am concerned on the ground about people living in fear of being deported. I met with a young girl who is 12 years old, very concerned when she pulled me aside in a school one day to say that she's always afraid that when she goes home, her grandmother won't be there to take care of her anymore. And so I talked about what it must be like as a parent must be terrifying to be wondering if your child is ever going to be reunited with you. Obviously, we have not done a good job of that. It never should have happened in the first place. But we basically called them out and saying, stop hurting Latino children to score political points with your base. We want kids to be reunited. There's trauma that's been happening. And this has always been a nation of immigrants. My grandparents came here from Canada and Ireland, and it's always been a welcoming country. We need to understand that people are coming in search of a better life for themselves and their families. Some people are leaving political violence. Some people are leaving drug trafficking violence. But everyone wants to come here and seek a better life for themselves and their family, and they've done it at great risk. And so I wanted to get on. I guess we crashed the party at Fox in the hope that if President Trump was listening, that he would listen to the very real concerns that I have and so many people have at the inhumanity that's been going on. So, I am a candidate for Congress. I am not afraid to stand up to people and speak truth to power. I've always been that way. I will continue to be that way, and I'm going to do whatever it takes to represent the concerns of people in my 3rd congressional district.
So, Barbara, how did you manage to do that? The look on the faces of those hosts was pretty precious. How did you manage to end up there? You're from Massachusetts. They were looking for someone in Arizona.
Yeah, they reached out to a member of my communications staff who had previously worked for the former Congresswoman. And, real due diligence on their part, right? They're not a news organization. They're an entertainment organization, and it's bad entertainment at that. But they reached out based on information and having that person's contact information from 10 years ago. And we saw an opportunity and we took it.
That is so great. And wow, I feel like everyone involved in that deserves a medal because it's important. Honestly, I don't know if Donald Trump will be hearing that, but it is really important. I think to the extent that there is any type of social disruption about particularly these policies and these type of policies, I think is crucial. And I couldn't agree more with what the way you characterize these policies. Absolutely despicable what we've done in terms of not just the essentially kidnapping these kids, but also our immigration policies are absurd. And I want to just touch on briefly what other, now we have an opportunity to introduce you to people in Massachusetts, around the country. You have been I know, sponsoring a single-payer health care bill in the Massachusetts State Senate, I guess, for almost a decade. Is that right?
Yes, I've been a big believer in single payer as, again, the most humane approach to helping people get the health care they need. Having insurance doesn't necessarily mean you have health care if you can't afford the copays, deductibles, the caps on service, you can't afford your medications. I think we need to aspire to and move towards a single payer universal Medicare for all program. I was actually in Massachusetts and voted on what was then known as Romney Care, which tried to get us to 97% coverage of folks here in Massachusetts. But again, if that coverage isn't affordable, and if we go backwards where the Trump administration seems to want to go in terms of working with folks that have pre-existing conditions, then we are going in the wrong direction. So I've been endorsed up here in Massachusetts by the Mass Care Group, which has been pushing for single payer up here for a very long time. I've worked on healthcare policy for 15 years. I was motivated and ran for office because of my son with autism. When I started 15 years ago, I was paying for a policy for my son, and yet he could not get what he needed within his diagnosis of autism. So was able to pass 2 pieces of legislation to make that easier for the tens of thousands of kids behind us in Massachusetts that really need supports and services through their medical insurance. So I've been working on medical insurance issues for a long time. We have an issue up here in Massachusetts around safe staffing in hospitals as well, making sure we have enough nurses on board. So I've got the support of the nurses up here, as well as teachers, the National Education Association. So I've been a progressive working in the trenches for 15 years. I could tell you my story about getting kicked out of the Catholic Church over standing up for gay marriage in a very active way when I was a freshman back in 2004. I've been in the trenches for a long time, and I'm not afraid. I'm a very strong leader that always tries to carry sort of my mom values forward of care and compassion and persistence.
And Barbara, let me just ask you, there's 9 other people running in this primary. Have you, obviously I don't know if you've run before, but you certainly have been, I'm sure, aware of what's happened in that district in terms of the seat. And I think it's Nikki Tsongas who has been in that seat, and she's been in that seat for a long time, as far as I can.
11 years, yes.
What has changed? Has something changed from your perspective on the energy within the Democratic Party at the moment?
I think it's palpable. I noticed it right after Trump's election, noticed it during the Women's March. Long before this congressional seat opened, we did an activist forum in my major city of Lawrence. We had over 200 people show up. We were trying to plug them into a bunch of different ways that they could get involved, be it with healthcare, the environment, transgender rights, LGBTQ rights, education, public education. So we have seen a real growth in folks that realize they can no longer sit on the sidelines. They need to plug in and stand up for something. And so we have seen that activism in place here in the 3rd Congressional District.
Barbara, thank you so much for joining us. We're going to put a link to your website if folks want to go find out more, support you in the myriad of ways that people offer support to candidates. And really appreciate your coming on, and can't thank you enough for and your comms person for showing up on Fox, and at the very least, just making those people who are interviewing you feel somewhat uncomfortable about trying to shill for these horrible policies.
Absolutely, my pleasure to be with you, and I have no regrets on what I did today. I think it shows strong leadership.
All right, thanks again. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
There it is.
That's hilarious.
So great.
Falls into your lap, you got to take it and run with it.
So great. The idea of like whoever that person was whose name was on file for them coming up and saying, "Hey guys, I just got I got an idea that might just be so crazy it might work. And I mean, I think that type of, honestly, like, I think it's easy for people to think that you can overstate the value of that type of attitude. But that is something you do not see in people who work around politics, willing to take that type of risk, where it's like, there's no downside, obviously, if they just don't return the phone call. No one's ever going to walk around going, that Barbara L'Italian, she had an opportunity to hoodwink Fox and she never took it. No one's ever going to say that. No one's ever going to know. But to lean into an opportunity like that, and she clearly has some great politics. And this is, again, we're talking about 9 candidates in that district. I imagine folks could do worse. So we will put a link to her site in Massachusetts.